this video I'm going to show you how to cut this halter neck turtleneck gown. Okay, you guys have seen this around the whole internet and it's so easy and simple to cut, and in this video I'm going to show you how to cut and sew this beautiful halter neck turtleneck gown. I'm almost twisting my tongue. We're starting with the front body. That's for the pattern, and that's my bust point, my under bust point, my hip point. I forgot to mark my waistline. That's my shoulder point. Okay, I forgot to mark my waistline, but I'm going to include it as we go along the tutorial. So I quickly went ahead to insert my armhole curve. Then from the side I marked 2.5 inches for the neck width and 2.5 inches for the neck depth, and I connected my markings with a curvy line. You just draw your neckline. Then I went down by half an inch around the shoulder point, and I connected it to my neckline for the shoulder slant. So we have our neckline here, our armhole curve. The next thing I went ahead to do was to mark my bust, my under bust measurement, my waist, and my hips. I told you guys I forgot to draw my waist point, so at this point I went ahead to mark my waist point. Then my hips, I wanted the gown to be a little free, so I marked same measurement for my waist and my hips. Okay, then I went to the hem and went down by 1 inch and marked my hem. The 1 inch I'm explaining here is like if my hips is 40 inches, so when I go down, instead of marking 10 inches, I mark 9 inches to give me that pencil effect. Okay, so after marking my points together, the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect my markings with, you know, several lines, slanted, curvy, to just give me the desired shape of my gown. So this is what we have here. You know, that's my waist, that's my hips, and that's the hem. So from the top I marked 5 inches, and I connected my markings with a straight line. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want so much side boobs to show. Okay, so I want to know where I'll be slanting the halter neck from and how wide it will be. Okay, so I marked 5 inches. Then from the center I marked 6 inches. Okay, and I did this because I didn't, you know, sometimes this halter neck turtleneck gown, sometimes when you wear them your boobs begin to show so much, and I didn't want that for this gown, so that's why I did like this measurement here. So after marking 6 inches, I went ahead to connect my markings to my neckline. These guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is what we have here. You can see that we've drafted the halter neck gown. I'm just going to quickly show you guys where we are cutting out. Okay, I'm using another color of marker so that you know that that is the portion we are drafting out of the pattern. Okay, so now the front bodice is ready. I'm just going to cut out the places I don't need. Now this measurement here, you guys can see that I didn't add, there's no like another different line for sewing allowance. That's because when I was marking my bust, my under bust, my waist, my hips, I also included sewing allowance. Okay, so this is the front bodice. This is what we have here. You can see it's very simple to draft the front part of this halter turtleneck gown. Now to the back part, and for the back, that's my bust point, my under bust point, my waist point, my hips point, and of course the hem of the gown. Now from the top I marked 1 inch for my zip allowance. The width of this ruler is 1 inch, so that's why how I know that, you know, it's 1 inch. I don't normally use it to draft my pattern, so we've drafted out 1 inch for our zip allowance. So from the zip allowance point I marked my shoulder point, which is 8.5 inches, and I did this to I took the exact measurement here. I got to my bust point because you want to make sure everything is nice and precise. Then I connected my markings with a straight line. So that's my shoulder point. Then I went ahead to insert my neckline. So from the top I marked 1 inch downwards for my neck depth, and I marked 2.5 inches for my neck width, and I connected my markings with a curvy line. Of course you can't draw your neckline with a straight line now. The next thing I'm going to do is I grabbed the front pattern, I laid it on the back pattern, and this is because I want to transfer the length of my armhole, you know, the length of my armhole curve. I want to transfer it from the front part of the pattern to the back part of the pattern, so everything will be, you know, equal. So I just traced the front pattern on the back pattern, and that is where we have like the armhole curve, the whole halter neck effect. So after that, next thing I went ahead to do is I just inserted my measurement. That's my bust measurement, my under bust measurement, my waist measurement, my hips measurement, and my hem measurement. So like I said, I wanted the gown to be a little free, so I took the same measurement for my waist and my hips. And after this, I just connected my markings with curvy lines, straight lines, slanted lines. Okay, if you want to give it the pencil effect, you go down by 1 inch when you get to the hem. So if your hips is 40, instead of marking 10 at the hem, you mark 9. We are good? Yeah. And I also went ahead to highlight the armhole part so that you guys will see it very well. So this is what the back part looks like. Now at this point I decided to tag the back part because they look so alike. I didn't want to make any mistake. After cutting the back part, I also went ahead to tag the zip allowance. One thing about patterns is sometimes you might feel I will remember. My dear, you will forget and you waste your fabric and it will end in tears. So always tag your patterns. Okay, now it's time to cut. I'm working with a stretchy fabric. This is a scuba fabric. Is the fabric I bought for my bridesmaids when I was doing my wedding in December. So I had like 3 yards left, so I decided to use it to make this gown. So I just laid the fabric on the pattern on the fabric on a fold of 2, and I'm just cutting through. Now you will see that around the armhole side, that's this halter curve, I added 1/2 inch folding allowance because I'm going to fold over the armhole. Okay, I'm not going to create a facing for the armhole, right? So I just added 1/2 inch folding allowance. That's why you're seeing that I'm not cutting exactly on the pattern for the front part. Okay, I did the same for the back as well. So this is the front. Then I went ahead to cut the back as well. Like I mentioned, I added 1/2 inch folding allowance for the armhole. Okay, so for the back, same thing like we did for the front. We're just going to cut through. Something you bear in mind is for this fabric, I cut the fabric in direction of the flared. That means the not flared, stretch. This is a stretchy fabric, so the fabric is stretching towards my sides. Okay, I cut the fabric in direction of the stretch. We're good. I also went ahead from the pattern. I transferred my zip allowance from the pattern to the fabric. I don't know if you can see that line. It looks very faint. It's time to sew. So we're starting with the back pattern. We're just going to join it at the zip allowance. Like I said, I transferred the zip allowance from the pattern to the fabric, which is the line you are seeing there. So I just joined it at the zip allowance, and you guys know that the fabric was on a fold, so of course my zip allowance is closed, so I just opened it up with my scissors. So this is what the back part looks like. I've joined it at the zip allowance. I've opened up the fold. Now I also went ahead to mark my dart. You guys have seen me draft dart over and over again on this channel, so I didn't have to show you guys the detailed way on how to draft, you know, how to insert a dart. So I just went ahead to draft my dart, and I did this for both sides of the back part. And I took it over to my sewing machine, and I picked the dart for both the left hand side and the right hand side of the gown. Okay. So I did this with a straight stitch. Okay, so this is what we have here, this is what we have here. So this is the back part, this is what it looks like. You guys can see that this gown is already coming together. Now for the front part, I've already gone ahead to, you know, mark my dart, but let me just show you guys. This is what it looks like. I know you guys say the dart is so tiny. I didn't really want a bogus dart. To draft the dart, that is where you place your tape. I wanted to show you guys where you place your tape so you won't be confused. So from that point, you know, you mark where your dart is starting from. Take the entire length of your dart, then from the center you take the width of your dart, then you just draft your dart. Okay, I wanted to show you guys a quick way on how I went ahead to place my tape when I was drafting my dart for the gown. Okay, and I did the same thing to the front part. I took it over to my sewing machine and I picked my dart for both the left hand side and the right hand side of the front part of this gown. I'm out of air. Okay guys, this is what the front part looks like. You can see the dart is well picked, looking beautiful, crisp and nice, right? Okay, so this is what we'll do. So we're going to lay the back part like this. You guys have said I've said I should stop saying like so, and we're going to place the front part on the back part, and we're going to align our points together, secure a pin, and take our measurements. Like this is what we have here. I've already gone ahead to mark out my waist, my hips, my bust, every other thing you can see. It was very easy because I know how much allowance I added to the pattern. So we are just going to join it by the sides. Okay, and we're going to first of all join it with a straight stitch, then we'll go ahead to use a zigzag stitch, because you know it's a stretchy fabric. If you use straight stitches, after a while the stitches will begin to pop and cut, and you begin to see holes in your gown. So for my zip allowance, I first of all did a straight stitch, then I went ahead to do a zigzag stitch. So for the sides as well, I first of all did the straight stitch, then I went ahead to do the zigzag stitch. Okay, so I did this for both sides of the gown, and this is what we have here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do zigzag stitches round the armhole curve, and we're going to fold it and pin it. So I've done zigzag stitches because I didn't want the armhole curve to be just, you know, rough, or the edges, I didn't want the edges to be rough and untidied. So I did like zigzag stitches for both sides, and this is what we have here. Then I went ahead, that 1/2 inch folding allowance I told you I added, I went ahead to fold it in. Okay, and you want to make sure it is 1/2 inch on all sides. So that's why I was using my tape to measure as I folded along. I don't know if that English is correct. So this is what we have here, guys. I've already folded both sides, the 1/2 inch sewing turning allowance for the armhole. I've gone ahead to fold it in, and I'm just going to use straight stitches and top stitch on that point. Okay, so we're top stitching now, straight stitches. For this tutorial I used size 6. That's my stitch length is size 6, so I don't know which one you would use for your own sewing machine, but for the straight stitches my stitch length is size 6. So I just went ahead to top stitch for all sides of the gown. Okay, and I did this for both sides. That I top stitch on both sides of the gown. I don't know the English I'm speaking. You guys can see what I'm doing. After sewing, I took it over and gave it a really good press. You guys can see it's a little wet. That's because I gave it a good press with my steaming iron. You really want to iron as you sew. Don't just sew and not iron. You are not a butcher. Sew and iron. Okay. So this is what the front part looks like. You can see how well laid and how smooth and how neat it looks. Okay, so this is what the armhole looks like. I can see how I easily turned it over without a facing. We are good. Now I didn't just want to leave the armhole like that, so I added some pearls. I just punched it in, this is what it looks like after putting in the pearls. If you guys don't know how to use, I use my rivet machine for this, and a video on how to use your rivet machine to put in your put pearls into your fabric will be coming up soon. That's a video that will come up after this one. Okay, so you guys will not come and keep me in the comment section and say, how did you put it? The video is coming up next. Okay. Okay, so I put in the pearls just to decorate the gown a little bit, so the gown won't just look just there. I wanted it to have a little finesse. So this is what we have here. This is what the armhole, the halter effect looks like. So for the hem, I also went ahead to do zigzag stitches at the hem to cover up the rough edges of the hem. I folded it in by 1 inch, and I'm going to use this sealer gum to seal the end of the gown. Okay, you want to make sure. I was already out of sealer gum, so that's why you can see I use just one layer. Normally I double it so that the hold it will have on the fabric will be very strong. So you're just going to place the gum and use your steam iron to make sure it's well aligned, not well aligned, well gummed, if there's any word like that, to the fabric. Now if you've watched up to this point and you're enjoying this video, make sure you subscribe if you've not subscribed, and give this video a thumbs up. Okay, like I said, I have a surprise. Not like I said, my title said I have a surprise at the end of this video, so make sure you watch to the end of this video. I actually have a surprise for you guys. Okay, so this is what the hem looks like. You can see how well laid it looks. It looks crisp, it looks smooth, it looks beautiful. Okay, this is what the hem looks like. Now we are going to go over to cutting the turtleneck collar. Okay, we're going to go over to cutting the turtleneck collar, and the simple way to do that is just to grab your tape and take the measurement round your neck. Okay, and that is what I did here, and I got 16.5 inches. We're good. 16.5 inches is the width of my neck. Okay, now I've gone ahead to cut out 18.5 inches because my zip allowance is 1 inch. Remember, I have zip allowance on both sides, so that's 2 inches. So 2 inches plus 16.5 inches, that is 18.5 inches. So the width of this fabric, the length of this fabric is 18.5 inches, while the width of the fabric is 14 inches. Okay, something you want to bear in mind is when you are cutting the collar, make sure you cut it in direction of the stretch. Now to sew the collar, what I did here was I folded my fabric into 2, and I'm going to make like backskin stitches. These are stitches that you can loosen later, so I'm going to sew it on that side, open it up, iron it, and loosen it. You guys will understand as we go. Okay, so I took it over to my sewing machine, made really loose stitches. They call them backskin stitches. These are stitches that you can easily loosen. You just keep them there for a little while. So after joining the fabric together, I went ahead to open up the seam, and I'm doing this because I actually need the outline of the seam to help me sew the collar to the halter neck. Okay, now after I've opened up the I've opened the seam. Okay, let me not bite my tongue. You will know that because I ironed it, I'm going to have like that dent to show me where my where my sewing allowance started from. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it like this, and I'm also going to press it in. Okay, I'm going to press the seam allowance inwards. If what I'm saying is confusing you, just look at what I'm doing. So I turned it over to the wrong side, and I'm pressing in my sewing allowance. Okay, and after that I'm still going to fold it into 2 and press it in again. Yeah, you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to fold it into 2 and press it in again. You understand, when I start sewing, you will really understand why I am doing this. Okay, so this is what we have here. This is what we have here. Now we're going to get the center of this collar because we want it to align with the center of the front part of this dress. Good. So when you get the center, what I did here, when I got the center, what I did here was I put an office pin there so that I won't make a mistake, and I aligned the center of the collar. I aligned it to the center of the front part of this gown, and I secured a pin. Then I went ahead to stretch out the collar. Not really, I didn't pull, I just like stretched it out and secured, you know, the different points with some pins. I also did it like I did it for the whole front part. So now that my front part has been secured to the collar, I'm going to clip it over to the back part, and I'm going to secure the rest of the fabric to the back part of the collar. Okay, the rest of the gown to the back part of the collar. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm going to secure the collar to the back part of the gown. Sometimes explaining to you guys is like I'm confusing you the more, but you can see what I'm doing. So because that's my zip, the back part plus my zip allowance already opened up, so I just aligned the remaining part of the collar to the gown. That's the neckline of the gown, and I secured with office paint, as you can see. So that's why I need an adequate measurement for your neck width. Okay, you can see I have a little excess, not excess, you can see I have a little space between the front part and the back part, so you guys can see why we need the measurement of our neck width. So I'm just going to join. After joining, I'm going to top stitch. So I took it over to my sewing machine and I attached the collar to the gown. And after that, I opened it up, gave it a really good press. Yeah, what I was trying to explain, I said that you can see this little space we have here. That's why we need the measurement of our neck width, and everybody doesn't have like one neck width measurement. You have to take your own neck width measurement, so that by the time you add the sewing allowance for your zip side, when you add it to the collar and you properly align it to the gown, naturally you will just have this space here in between, you know, the armhole. You don't need to calculate, oh, how many inches should I leave for the space. No, once you've properly taken the neck width allowance, you don't need to bother yourself about that. So after this, I'm just going to fold it and top stitch. You guys can see why I was fighting to make sure that sewing fold was in place. This is the reason. It's just going to easily allow you to top stitch the back side to the front side. Some people don't top stitch, some people just do like needlework, some people use hemming gum, but me, I wanted to top stitch and I top stitched and it came out really beautiful for me. But one thing you have to have at the back of your mind is your stitches must be straight, they must be well aligned. You know, you don't want to see any bending stitches. You want to make sure your stitches are straight and well aligned. So I just top stitched, you know, from one end of the collar to the other end of the collar. I really took my time because I wanted it to come out really, really beautiful, and it did, guys. Trust me, it did. So after this, you're going to give it a good press. Make sure you give it a really, really good press with your steaming iron. I've opened up the zip allowance and I'm going to attach my invisible zip to this gown. I don't know why I chose violence because you guys know that sometimes attaching invisible zip is so difficult, but it wasn't difficult for me today. Most times when I feel like this zip is going to take me time to attach, it's not going to take me time. It's the day I feel like, oh, it's not going to take me time today, those are the days it will take my time. Okay. So guys, this is just like the easiest way, simplest way, and the fastest way to sew this turtle halter neck gown. Now to dress up the gown, guys, I just went ahead to wear my earrings. This is the earring I wore for my traditional look on my wedding day. You can see how beautiful I look. I just put on my wedding ring to accessorize the gown, and I wore some bangles. This is what the back side looks like. You can see how snatched it looks. Okay, and this is what the front part looks like. Yes guys, I'm pregnant. Your favorite internet tailor is pregnant, and she's so excited for this phase of her life. Like, I'm so excited, and I can't wait to share some pregnancy content with you guys. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching guys. Bye.